With the world preparing to hold the 12th meeting of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body INB12 in Geneva, civil society organizations and leaders on the African continent are advocating for equity in access to treatment under what is known as a World Health Organization pandemic agreement. This agreement was called to secure and address the stark inequalities exposed during the COVID-19 pandemic when the developing countries could not access vaccines, diagnosis and therapeutics, with Africa bearing a disproportionate burden. In Kampala, a stakeholder meeting has been held to engage stakeholders involved in the pandemic fight to identify crucial pandemic challenges and how these can be equitably solved in the pandemic agreement.
The World Health Organization sat in Geneva, and part of the agenda was to discuss and come to an agreement on how this treaty is going to be made. So we were not able to come to an agreement because of some of the issues that are being mentioned here. We cannot be able, as Africa, as Uganda, to be able to do our own medicine because we do not have technology. It is patented. The initiators of the technology at the moment, they are not allowing to transfer that knowledge to Africa to allow us to do our own production.
As we negotiate for the pandemic agreement, response and preparedness, we want to see that Africa begins to produce vaccine and other drugs associated with pandemics. Then secondly, apart from the production, we also want to see that there is transfer of the know-how of the technology that is needed to produce this vaccine, knowing that most of the diseases begin in Africa, and that's where the data specimens are collected. So which means that we should be able to handle the vaccine, the technology around that. So that's the second appeal. Why? Then the other one is funding of the vaccine. Certainly the production is still dominated by developed countries. They fund most of the vaccine production and all that. And we want to see that there is sustainable funding, long-term funding.
Uganda is one of the countries on the continent that has been hit with numerous outbreaks, including Ebola in 2022, COVID-19, and most recently Mpox, with the government reporting over 200 cases of the latter so far. Survivors in some of these outbreaks want access to care improved through equitable resource allocation in line with the Geneva Pandemic Agreement.
For hepatitis C, we have over 365,000 people living positively with hepatitis C in Uganda. However, our treatment coverage is at 0%, which is very, very sickening and sad. We call upon government to make an intervention that can address access to hepatitis C drugs for these patients, because it is curable. We can do something about it, and we believe no one else can do better than the government to access this.
One of the challenges that I faced, this medicine, it is very rare to get, even though it was there in some other pharmacies, but it was expensive. I really encourage the members on board who are going to sit in Geneva to empower countries like Uganda, where I'm born, that they can start their own factories through their knowledge, and they give them a chance of manufacturing the medicine from our country.
Emmanuel Lutamaguzi, the executive director of the Hepatitis Aid Organization and also a survivor of the disease himself, is concerned at the continuing discrepancies in the access to care as well as resource allocation to patients in Uganda.
It's still a challenge. It is a reality that we do not have hepatitis B drugs in the country. On top of the 1.5 years, we continue to bleed as patients who are living positively with hepatitis B. So we call upon government to work this out as soon as possible, to make all the barriers, to address all the barriers to access this hepatitis B drugs so that it is accessible for all that are in need and all that require it.
By standing firm on the issues of equity, regional production, technology transfer and sustainable financing, leaders are optimistic that Africa can secure a more fair and resilient future. This can be done by utilizing the opportunity to influence the final terms in the World Health Organization Pandemic Agreement.